Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. And in this episode, we're going to give you our review for Season 1 of Gen V. All episodes now streaming on Prime. If you look at our channel, we have a review for each of the episodes. So we stuck with this since the very beginning. We have a lot of hot takes, a lot of thoughts to say about it. There will be full spoilers ahead, so stick with us. It's going to be a jam-packed show. Without further ado, my friend Dylan, start us off.
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse every day. Like, let this horse die already. Shit, let me just bury it.
Jeez Louise.
So when we watched episode 1 and 2, I felt like it had a lot of promise. I thought the characters were really strong in the beginning. I thought the premise was cool too, seeing like a different side of the supes too, especially more like these like innocent looking characters, right? And they're just like involved in like, you know, the stakes of the boys. But the more we watch and the more the episodes progressed, I felt like the stakes were almost non-existent at the end. And I mean, there were like a few surprises towards the middle of the series and at the end, but none that like blew me away. And I still feel like at times they rely too heavily on the main series as like a crutch to stand on their own feet. And I think that's kind of like weak writing, in my opinion. I don't know if that's perhaps due to the writer's strike, but I think they could have made it a little bit more, I don't know, maybe a little juicier or more toxic. I don't know, especially when you're watching The Boys. There were like a lot of like crazy moments. I'm not gonna lie. They don't hold back on the graphic factor. I think that's one thing that they do get right from the Boys series. But I don't know. I feel like the writing in the main series is like a little stronger. Maybe it's just because like they're younger characters too. I don't know, like maybe when you're older you have like a lot of like trauma and stuff, but I mean a lot of these characters have baggage too, so I feel like that should have affected a lot of the story too. But yeah, let's give us your take, Akram.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to say it's just a thought that counts, but I feel like that's what they were thinking. You know, because with a show there's the surface level and then you go deeper and then there's the core and what it really represents. And so I got little notions of that. And then from there also comes the stakes, because you could kind of relate it to our reality. And that's what The Boys is about. They like to jab at, you know, political sides and jab at this and that and social issues here and there. And, you know, I think the truth comes from comedy. So I like how they do that. They approach it. With this, they kind of back themselves in a corner, because there's not much you can really explore other than what I just picked up in the last episode was, oh, okay, this kind of reminds me of like that whole debate where, you know, the LGBT thing and like the community and the right doesn't like that. And the left is like, well, why don't you like that? It's like this whole thing. And then the right has this conspiracy where, well, if you indoctrinate younger people, then you kind of change the society later on, because these people will be in office. They're the ones who's controlling things. So it seems like they're playing with this scenario. And what can happen is, you said in the last episode, there could be this overall bigger problem, a bigger war, where now you like saying the word, people can be specious, right? And people can go against each other. And I think that's been building up since The Boys season 1. And sometimes you could see Butcher's side and you could really empathize with him, and then you get mad. And I love, because sometimes we have like an inside joke and you say, where's your anger?
Where's your rage? Your self-respect.
Exactly. And you should be going out there.
I feel like to the writers right now.
Right. Your self-respect.
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, but like, you know, I get it. And then I kind of get Indira's side. She ended up not being the real villain. She was a tool to craft Kate, and she used Kate in a certain way, which sometimes I'm like, I don't know, because Indira kind of, like in that one scene, Indira seemed like she's really, she lacks something after the passing of her child and husband. So it's like, sometimes I see her not as a really big villain. It's just hard to really grasp who's the real villain sometimes.
She's too sympathetic. It's like, I get there are sympathetic villains, but like, yeah. It's like Butcher. Like you root for Butcher because you know he's right, and you hate the soup so much that it's like she doesn't really come off as a villain. But I feel like she was written to be the villain for this show. Yeah. And then like Kate just came along and then just like stole that crown, I guess.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I like the twist. It's just the problem is the way how the show is formulated. there are serious moments, but for some reason it feels like they just pass by it blithely later on. And so the impact doesn't really leave a crater. And you jump from point A to point B, and they do a lot of interesting stuff like time jumping, or, you know, that whole loopy thing with Kate that she's like taking over people's minds and stuff. But then they wrap it up. They keep wrapping it up. And then you're like, okay, where else can we go? And so you could only rely on, okay, like I explained earlier with the whole like political thing in universities, that's like at its core, like what can happen later on. That's the danger. But the other dangers on a surface level aren't really that compelling and fun. They showed a tease long time ago for Soldier Boy, and then it turned out to be just this dream. And so I thought he was going to be like a major threat, but now they just kind of wasted him. Homelander came at the end. You know, it kind of seemed like Homelander came at the end like Omni-Man from the Mortal Kombat 11 trailer. He was like, oh, I'm going to fuck everybody up. Right. And then he leaves or whatever. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't really stick with you like how The Boys. Like I rewatched The Boys so many times now. Each season so many times because those shows were so addictive. With this, I'd prefer not even to watch the show for a minute, just because I really did not care too much about these characters by the end. And I think that's a disservice to the characters because they are complex and they are in a way not really good people because no one's really good in this world, but you know, they're trying their best. And I think you could tell that something's off when you don't really care about the characters because you're going to stick with them through the next season. And then they're going to meet the boys' characters and then other supes that you know from the comics. It's like, do we really care about these people? I'm not so sure. Again, put 2 bullets behind Sam's head, though. Definitely got to do that by next season because he's dangerous.
Oh, I guess so. Now he's a villain, so you can have to. I'm telling you, nobody listens to Akron.
Yeah. See?
I agree with those points. I feel like I was invested in these characters in the beginning, and then I kind of lost my taste for them as they progressed. And then some of their issues, I don't know, maybe. I mean, when you compare them to like, you know, Huey and MM, right, and their troubles, right, and then you see these guys, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, do I really care about like Andre's relationship with his father, right?
Yeah.
Or even like Jordan, like with his parents.
I forgot about that actually. You just reminded me of that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you forget a lot of this shit happened because like it goes, like you said, it goes by so fast, and it's like, and maybe it's meta in a way because it's like, you know, a satirical thing about like how we digest media. I feel like they should have pushed more on like the whole TikTok culture thing and how, like, you know, because these are younger characters, you can talk about more social issues about younger characters, which they kind of play with at times. I mean, they talk about like, you know, how the college process kind of like fucks people over, but that's it's not like a big theme, right? And then you had like the woods was supposed to be like this terrifying new aspect of Vought, but it wasn't even really Vought. It was like a subset or like a rogue element of Vought.
Yeah.
And then you had this virus thing, which I thought would have a bigger impact. So I feel like this show overall, the way it played out was just like not even a spin-off. It felt like a boys DLC or something, like a side mission. Honestly, that's how I felt like. I felt like you just went through this whole thing and we saw like certain cameos from certain characters, but at the end of the day, the only thing it really adds is just like, okay, well, get ready for Boys season 4 or 5.
Season
right?
4,
that's all it is.
What will be the price range of this DLC?
I wouldn't waste the spit of my mouth.
Spit on it with.
Shit, I'll watch the Boys Diabolical before I watch this shit. I still haven't watched the animated one yet.
That was pretty cool. No, that was even lackluster. You know what? There's maybe a pattern here because that honestly was pretty lackluster. A lot of the episodes. We haven't done a review for that, unfortunately. But the only episode, there was like maybe 1 or 2 episodes from that was actually pretty good. Interesting enough, Gen V, for me at least, had only like 1 or 2 episodes that was actually pretty key and good. And The Boys was just like a heavy hitter. Like every episode for me, I absolutely adored it. So maybe, you know, I think they're putting all their strength into The Boys, which is their main series. That's fine. But I wonder they're going to come into the same problem that they did with The Walking Dead, where it's kind of interesting how to compare the two. But with The Walking Dead, it was like The Walking Dead became ass later on. But we can all admit that The Walking Dead is the main series. Fear the Walking Dead, I can't ask anybody, do you know Fear the Walking Dead, what characters are? And they don't know what even, that's like I'm speaking Latin to them. They don't know. And I feel like the same problem will occur with these spin-off shows, unfortunately. And it doesn't help too that remember in San Diego Comic-Con when we went there, it was on the passes and stuff, but then it didn't
Don't
show
remind
up.
me.
Yeah, it's like now it's just gone. It's just nobody cares. And I think it's an unfortunate thing. But I mean, honestly, I would have, if I was a writer there or like a lead, I honestly would have took a character from the comics and spin that character, kind of make them like this anti-hero as well, but like infiltration into VA and show more of that corporate culture rather than this, because young people stuff is like important, but everybody in the show is kind of like a dickhead too. So it's like, you don't really care sometimes. Like, fuck it. The only one I actually really care for is Marie Moreau. I actually like her character, not gonna lie, because she doesn't seem so much like a dickhead. Everybody else does. So I mean,
I kind of wanted more of Luke too, because I feel like he got killed off way too early.
I didn't want him to die. I thought he was a cool character, man.
They even hyped up his costume that I was like, oh shit! And that's another thing, like because they're younger, we don't get to see them in their suit outfits. So I was like, they don't really feel like supes to me, right? Even Starla, even though like she dresses like normal sometimes, like you see her in costume,
right?
So and to me, like, and sometimes when they show their powers, it's like I don't know, it's. Maybe because it's normal for them because you have a big community of supes. It's like normal. So it's like not really that you don't really care that much. So it's like when they show off their powers, it's like, oh, I don't really care. But like when they do it in the boys, there's these like bigger ramifications every time they use their powers. So I feel like here it's just like every day. So it's like you don't really care. It's like watching like Invincible or some shit.
Yeah. I mean, it does suck. And then another thing I want to touch on is like the gory aspects of it. It's what you expect. I think that's just the paint on these shows. Like anything that has to do with the main writer and the show lead, especially has to do with the boys. Of course, it could be pretty gory. Did you think they did it as well and tastefully as they did it in the boys?
To be honest with you, now that I'm looking back at some of these episodes, it felt actually pretty cringe.
Yeah,
seeing like college kids like do all this shit, because it's like when you look at like. College kids, they already do some wild shit, but then to see it like a college, I still think this is like Sky High with like more graphic
NC-17
elements. Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes they definitely had like the boys flavor where like they like blood is always like a big thing in the boys, and to see Marie Moreau's powers like early on in the first episode, I think was like a huge shock value. They love penises too in this show.
They definitely do.
They love blowing shit up and they love penises so much. I don't know. I think after a while it put like a sour taste in my mouth.
Me too. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't know. And I seen like a recent there was like some statistics or whatever where they were like actually talking to Gen Zers or something like that. And a lot of people for some reason put that they'd rather not see as many like sexual stuff or I'm not like a complete prude, but it's like that for some reason the way how they approached it, I wasn't like a big fan. I don't know, I kind of found it corny. It was like really corny. I don't know.
Myself hitting the skip 15-second button.
yeah
like I don't know.
I don't know, the whole thing was just cheese, man. I don't know, but do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this shindig up and graduate?
Well, everybody, that's all the time we have. No, I think they should change writers.
Oh boy,
for season 2.
Oh
that's
shit!
My hot take. I don't know. I think they need to make it juicier. Maybe they could throw in some new character, or like you said, like take some characters from the. I'm not like super familiar with the comics, but perhaps maybe people who do enjoy the comics would get something out, because they brought in Tech Knight. I know he's from the comics, but like that was kind of like a one and done thing.
They threw him away.
Maybe not rely so heavily on like some of the main characters too, because then at that point you might as well just make it like the boys season.
You just add
like
them to the boys.
5. Yeah, so it's like it's not really a spin-off at that point. It's kind of just like I said, a DLC thing. I don't know. I think the cast was strong. I did enjoy their performances overall. I thought they weren't bad.
They were,
but I think it's just the writing was weak, and it didn't make me care too much for the character because the writing was so weak, right? But yeah, that's my final thoughts.
That's fair. I agree with you on that, and I think that unless there's like a teen team, I forgot their name actually from the comics. It was like this. It was a play on Teen Titans. So unless they do some shit with like the cast from Gen V, I thought that's where they were going to do. I thought they were gonna like do their own twist with that, but I don't know. They could probably go down that route, because the only thing that was really introduced was the disease, and then that's like the overall thing for the world of The Boys. But then you have these characters dealing with now Kate and Sam, so that's its own show's thing. So it's like, but I don't really care that much, to be honest. So that does suck. I wonder really what will, I keep calling her Nirvana. What's her name? Because the real name is like, Victoria Newman. There you go. Victoria Newman's character having the disease thing could be a major contender with Homelander. Like, what's going to happen? So that's pretty cool.
That's a big problem too. I feel like because you care more about the bigger impact for The Boys than you do about the actual characters from this show.
Yes, yeah, that's what it is. And honestly, if they wanted to do that, they could have just did like a Silmarillion where it's like, oh, somebody have eventually got this, you know? It's like you read it in what's that thing? The X-ray vision thing from Prime? Yeah, you just read it there. It's like, oh, okay, you forget about it.
Sure. I'll tell you what, though, if I went back in time to Comic-Con when that thing got canceled, I'd have been like, you'd be none the wiser, boy. Shit. You ain't missing much.
Oh, yeah, shit. Well, I honestly would rate season 1, thinking about every episode and all of our, because this is like one of the most like lowest rated shows we did, alongside I think Hello Tomorrow. So I honestly would rate this show a 5 out of 10. Not gonna lie. What would you rate it?
I think I would probably say 5 out of 10, actually. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. It did its job, but I feel like at the end, it didn't like leave me satisfied. I feel like more hungry than full in a way.
Sure, well.
Yeah. And maybe that's like, maybe Invincible will fill my appetite. And it's funny because there was a quote that Andre said that was so funny from Invincible. It's like, I don't want to be my dad. Just so funny. I don't know if like they're stealing quotes now, but.
Yeah, well, listen, you're hungry, but all you guys, you're at the lunch table. So if you stuck around to the end, make sure you actually put like and check out our other delicious videos on the channel. We have a lot for you guys to consume and get full from. And we're starting to review Invincible. This a little Easter egg from this channel. That's how we kind of started. We talked about Invincible, our very first episode, so it's really cool to actually revisit that and speak about the new Invincible season that just came out. We have a lot of reviews coming your way and a lot of plans to change up the channel a little bit, provide more content. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much if you made it to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed our Gen V episode by episode review series. Dylan, take us away.
For sure. Yeah, we do a lot of content on this channel covering from different streaming platforms. I hope you guys will check us out. Let us know what you thought of this episode, or I'm sorry, this season. And if you guys have any feedback for us, let us know what you would like us to review as well. But thank you guys so much for sticking around. And until then, thanks for having lunch with us.
See you guys.